Hey, this is Jimbo Slice here for PFC Media. Wanted to touch on an older interview with Steven Seagal, where he was asked about who in Hollywood was a real martial artist or a tough guy. And he wanted to clarify what the interviewer meant by tough guy. Did he mean martial artist or did he mean just generally physically tough? And the interviewer kind of meant both, like who could really fight, but also who had some training. And he went down a list, and we'll hit those people individually in later videos. But right now, I want to touch on the Chuck Norris portion of it. He directly insulted some other people, some other practitioners, but even he knew with his attitude that he had to tread lightly when he was approaching the topic of Chuck Norris, because there's no one that thinks Chuck Norris isn't real or legit. Even with those memes everybody jokes about today, and all the jokes that they have for Chuck Norris, where they exaggerate his abilities and all that stuff. In the case of Chuck Norris, it's all in good fun. They're not making fun of him like he really isn't those things. He's legitimately a tough guy, and he's legitimately qualified for all those things that he teaches, and all the things that he's credited for. They just kind of exaggerate it, and that's become the meme. But Chuck Norris got his black belt in Tang Soo Do in Korea. He got a pretty high level, and he had a string of schools in California. He has black belts in Taekwondo, I believe Hapkido. He has a black belt in Judo. And I think he's a 10th Dan in his system, and maybe a 8th or 9th Dan in Tang Soo Do. And he's also a 3rd degree black belt under the Machado brothers in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's about as legit as you get. Now, Steven Seagal, on the other hand, he's ranked at 7th Dan, and that's in Aikido. We can talk about the effectiveness of Aikido or the legitimacy of Aikido as a martial art at another time, but let's just say it's not that effective of a fighting system generally. You could be a tough guy and you could practice Aikido. You could be a fighter, you can practice Aikido. You can learn a couple techniques from every system. And most systems have something that's okay. But I want to focus on more his claims, okay? He made a lot of claims that makes me and other people question everything about him, okay? He claims to have been the first non-Japanese to have a dojo in Japan. It's kind of a stretch, okay? From what I understand, he married a girl in Japan, and her father had a dojo, and she inherited the dojo from the father, and she became the sensei, and he was under both of them. And when the father either passed away or handed the dojo over, whichever it was, he was now sort of an inheritor of a dojo. It's not exactly the way he described it. He kind of describes it like he's this American guy, goes to Japan, and in their field, where there's a lot of high-level practitioners, he opens up a place competing with the people that would normally be instructing him, those high-level people. So that's a weird claim, okay, and it seems kind of fraudulent to me, okay. He claims to have been good friends with Bruce Lee, and to have known him through several Hollywood stars. And he talks about how Bruce Lee would comment about their sons both being the same age, and having blue eyes and all this kind of stuff. But from what I understand, Steven Seagal was much younger than Bruce Lee, and he would have been a kid at the time when Bruce was very popular, and he went over to Japan, didn't come back until I think 74, while Bruce Lee passed away in 73. That whole time, Steven Seagal was in Japan. And on top of that, Their sons, there's about a 10-year age difference. I think Steven Seagal's son was born up to 10 years after Bruce Lee passed away. So that's another false claim. He also claims to have trained with O Sensei, which is Moriyashiba. He's the founder of Aikido. And turns out he passed away before Seagal even went to Japan. So you go down the list with all these false claims. There's things later on where he talked about he was part of the CIA and he was a Navy SEAL and he was part of Special Forces and then he trained Special Forces. He went on missions. Everyone says that's nonsense. Anyone that has the ability to look those things up says it's nonsense. But he has the ability to be a little coy about it and say, well, there's special ops and secret missions, and he has that little 0.1% that he can put in there as doubt, but it's nonsense. Okay, he calls himself a fighter, but who has he fought? I don't know of anyone that he fought. And he'll try to distinguish between street fighting, kind of like Wes Watson, and pro fighting. So obviously he's never had a pro fight. He's never had a boxing match. He's never had anything, okay? And he'll claim that he was a street fighter, but I don't know of anyone he beat in the streets. The closest thing to that is the stuntmen that he took advantage of. Now, obviously, those stuntmen, they're far lower paid than he was on his movies. There are a lot of them, and they all need work, and there are very few movies made with martial arts, so they all try to keep their jobs. Their job is to protect the main actor, okay, the star. So they go out of their way and they'll take a shot knowing that they can't give it back, but they're taking it knowing that they're protecting their living by going along with this. And he knew that they were going along with this, so he took advantage. He would hit people harder than they were supposed to be hit. He would injure them. He would hit them with weapons and things like that. And he would act like it was their mistake or it's better for reality if he goes a little bit hard, but really he was trying to hurt them. And over the years, he's had some challengers. There was the Dirty Dozen back in the day that came forward, and there were a number of martial artists that were that came together to say, look, we've had it with this guy. Bill Superfoot Wallace, I believe, was one. Benny the Jet. There were a number of guys. Bob Wall, I think, also. And he wouldn't fight any of them. Okay? I'm not saying he's required to fight anyone, but he made a lot of claims and he insulted a lot of people and has never proven that he can actually fight. He falsely took credit for teaching a front kick to Lyoto Machida and to Anderson Silva, as if they never knew a front kick or multiple ways to apply it. He acted like it was his special tweak that allowed them to win fights. They were just being respectful to the guy. All right? So overall, you have a guy, I think his rank's inflated. I question the system overall. There are many things about him that are questionable, and he can't really back up anything that he's ever said. So I'd say him saying that about Chuck, he knew that he couldn't come out and insult Chuck because everyone knows that he's real. It's just a fact. He's about as legit as they come. So his answer was, well, Chuck's 80 years old or 80-something years old, whatever the answer was at the time. I'm not sure how long ago the interview was. It's a few years old. But he was talking about Chuck's older, and he hinted that Chuck wasn't doing well health-wise. So you can't really include him in there, okay? But I don't think that was the spirit of the question. I think it was based on if you had him at his peak, would you consider him someone that you'd want beside you in a street fight? And with his ego, he still had to find a way to disqualify Chuck Norris. I think at his peak, Chuck Norris beats Steven Seagal in 30 seconds. All right, tell me what you think. If anybody has an opinion on this, I know there are a lot of people that back him and kind of fell for his nonsense or whatever. I love the movies. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of the movies, the earlier movies. The later ones are just nonsense. He's a non-practitioner at this point. It's all camera edits and everything. He's barely doing anything. But the early movies are great. The thought behind it is great. The mystery behind it is great. Even though he's not technically a thespian or a master actor, he's great for those parts, okay? Is he a fighter? Absolutely not. Is he a tough guy like they asked him? Absolutely not, okay? But maybe you have a different opinion, and let me know, guys. Do me a favor. It's a small channel. I'm doing my best to try to get some content out there. I don't really know the editing stuff, so I'm going to learn that as I go. So I just give you the videos in one take. Whatever I say, that's it. That's the video. But I'm learning as I go. And but let's grow the channel. If you can do me a real solid and like and subscribe, that would really help. And I'm going to try my best to put out some good content. And again, if you have any input, any advice, any critiques, whatever it happens to be, just let me know. All right, thanks, guys.